right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Orick. Trying to dodge all this rain. We've had flash flood watches the past couple of days, and I know Sean's having getting hammered by storms today too. So, how's it going, Sean?
Going good, man. Everything's in line.
Anna was the first one on tonight. She says she's not late tonight.
All right.
Um,
Well, for her, on time is whenever she gets here.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
You go. I'm surprised Jerry's not on yet. It's getting harder and harder for me to prepare for the show ahead of time. I'm getting back from work later and later in the evening. So now the draft is over. They signed rookie free agents. There's a handful of those guys, and I really want to save that discussion on them for the rookie minicamp after the rookie minicamp this weekend.
Yeah, because anything that we have to say about them right now is strictly going to be guesswork and speculation, and I want to see what they've got on the field before we get in depth with those guys.
Right, and they got a 6'7" tight end that killed some poor dude. He had a running start. It was on a trap play, and he had a running start, and this poor defensive back coming around the edge like on a dog blitz, and he comes like in motion. And then he just takes off, and this dude, he disappeared from the screen. So it was entertaining. But I mean, I just want to see what these guys look like. Somebody was surprised the other day. J.J. McCleskey's son. We had talked about him earlier, but J.J. McCleskey's son, Jalen McCleskey's on the Saints. I want to see what he does at the mini camp. So there's a few people I want to watch. The curious thing is, they took some defensive backs, they took some offensive linemen, they took one defensive tackle. In fact, they paid him a lot of money. So, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys mesh with this team, because unlike previous years where you could sit there and say, okay, you got these roster spots locked up, and you only have 2 or 3 spots really where a guy can fit in. This year, you kind of got a pretty wide open battle at stuff like linebacker outside of Demario Davis, at defensive tackle as the zero technique or one technique, the nose tackle. You got some interesting stuff at cornerback number 2. Where you have an opportunity to do something there, backup safety, so there's special teams play. You got 2 punters. You have a punting duel this year for the first time since 2009. So, I mean, there's some chances for people to make this team that, we're not even thinking about. So
not to mention the what looks to be the battle of who's going to step up at wide receiver, because you got Michael Thomas, and then you got a great chasm between him and the next man up, whoever that may be.
Yeah.
Looking over the past year, you'd look at Michael Thomas. Of course, last year he spent most of the season hurt, but after him, probably the most dependable receiver that we had was Taysom Hill.
Yeah. And no, last year you had Emmanuel Sanders, who kind of stepped up for while Thomas was out. But yeah, I mean, your number 2 receiver right now is Traquan Smith, and number 3 is probably Marquez Callaway.
Yeah,
with Deontay Harris, and Taysom Hill's supposed to be working mostly at quarterback, so you can't really count him. Your tight end position, we're assuming Adam Trotman's going to be the starter, but Josh Hill retired. So, yeah, there's a battle behind there, too. Who's going to be the other tight ends? We signed the guy from Denver, and he'll probably take the Josh Hill spot. But who's going to be the third tight end? Is it going to be Garrett Griffin? Is it going to be that 6'7" guy I was just talking about? Who is it going to be?
Shades of Chris Manhertz coming back.
Yeah. Well,
I,
it's
I
funny.
think it can't. I think it can't be stressed enough. Yeah, this is going to be our Saints, and we're going to have the Alvin Kamara. We're going to have the Michael Thomas. But
Mhm.
this is, in a lot of ways, this looks to be a very different team than the one we've been watching. And it's
Yeah.
not just the factor of Drew Brees not being there. It's going to be different.
Well, and that was some of the 6'7" tight end. I had to look up his name real quick. Dylan Schoner or Soner, Soehner.
Yeah,
So I guess is how you say his name, and they even describe him as a Josh Hill clone. I kind of lean more towards him being that third tight end, possibly. Just the guy they can use as an extra tackle. So because I think they're going to work more with what the hell is that tight end they signed?
I can't remember his name either.
I know it's a kid from Denver.
Yeah,
Okay. Is it? No, that's not that guy. Um, let's see. Tight end. Nick Vannett. That's who it is. Nick Vannett. That's the guy they signed from Denver. I just had to look up who it was. But I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of interesting possibilities here. We're assuming Zach Braun and Pete Werner are going to be in there, but they didn't bring back Craig Robertson. So behind him, who's going to be behind those linebackers? I mean, Caden Ellis, but who are the other guys going to be? That there's that guy Shaq Smith, who's probably competing for a spot at linebacker. Where does Noah Spence, a guy that I remember people fighting over back in 2015 or 2016, the Saints should draft him. And he blew out his knee last year. And I only mentioned him because he wears Ricky Jackson's number, 57. But, where does he fit in with this team anymore? Because we have a ton of defensive ends. We don't have too many defensive tackles. I mean, your defensive tackles are right now your nose tackle, Shy Tuttle. That's your starter with Malcolm Roach behind him, and then the undrafted free agent Josiah Bronson. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of changes we're going to see in this team. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I really don't.
yeah, I don't either. Like I say, there's going to be a lot of new faces and a lot of new places
Yeah,
for this year's team.
it's going to be a
And
very different team.
as far as Taysom goes, I prefer that he work at quarterback because all that other stuff, the Swiss Army knife, the whole gig, he's got that. He knows how to do that. And I really and truly, I'm nervous as a long tail cat in a rocking chair factory over Jameis Winston taking over the reins at quarterback. It's you've got so much of an unproven product there. You don't know if you're going to get the guy that saves the world or the guy that was 30 for 30 the last year in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm proving the right word because I said a bad word off the air. Describing him, it's you don't know with Winston. Winston has the talent and the capabilities of being a game breaking. That's why he was #1 overall draft pick. But it's the inconsistency and the fear you have that he is going to make a back-breaking mistake that's going to cost the game.
Or as you've alluded to before, the nightmare scenario is week 1 he comes out and throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then week 2 he throws 2 pick sixes and 3 more interceptions. I want to see evidence that he's absorbed everything that Peyton and Breeze and
It's
Peter
yeah.
Carmichael, that he's absorbed everything that he needs to make this transition, because he's got to realize the reality of it is this is his last chance at a career, and he's on a 1 year try it
Yeah,
contract.
he is. He is, and so is Taysom Hill, essentially. Um, but yeah, it's that wild pendulum that we have not experienced since the days of Aaron Brooks, and I'm not just saying that because they both wear number 2 and they both happen to be black quarterbacks. I'm not, but I'm saying that Drew Brees was so consistent and so dependable for 15 years that you never worried about. I every game I ever watched from the middle of the 2006 season on, I never had a feeling as I'm watching the game that, oh, this game's over. I always felt like we had an opportunity, even when we had some of the worst defenses in league history, we had an opportunity to win this game still. We could steal this. 2012, no coach, general manager gone half the year. We go through 2 interim head coaches because Mr. Vicodin, the linebacker coach, I forgot his name just now, but he had an issue where he was suspended for 4 games. So you had Aaron Cromer as the head coach, and then Joe Vitt, that was his name. Joe Vitt takes back over. But I'm still looking at this going, we got a shot at making the playoffs with no coach. The league record for most yardage given up in the season. We have an opportunity to make the playoffs still, and I felt that way in 2014. I felt that way in 2015. I felt that way in 2016. That we had opportunities to win games or make the playoffs. If this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen, we're probably going to get into the playoffs. And I just don't feel that this year. I feel like this is going to be a non-playoff year. We haven't played 17 games. I feel like this is going to be a 7-10 team. We're going to be the one team that doesn't make the playoffs with that kind of record.
Well, you hit on something there that I think is going to be another factor in the whole Jameis Winston thing, because he's following a first ballot unanimous choice Hall of Fame, Mr. Everything quarterback, and the scrutiny is going to be almost unbearable. I'm not talking about from coaches or players. I'm talking about from the average fan. They're going to want to walk in that Superdome and see games being won by a take charge quarterback that gets the job done. And he is not going to be Drew Brees. Well, nobody that follows Drew Brees is going to be Drew Brees.
Yeah, this is, as most people know that know me very well, I'm a fan of the band Chicago, okay? Terry Kath dies in 1978, accidental gunshot, okay? He accidentally shot himself. That's a whole story I can go on. He did not die playing Russian roulette. He was cleaning his guns, but he had been doing drugs and not sleeping and things like that. And he's at a roadie's house, Don Johnson, and he had guns. He was a gun aficionado. He had just taken his guns out to the shooting range, and he had a 45 that had a clip in it. And Donnie had said, Terry, why don't you put the guns away? Why don't you go lay down? You haven't slept. You need to sleep. And Terry's like, look. And he pulls the clip out and pulls the trigger. Says it's not loaded. But what he forgot to do was clear out the chamber. So when you take the clip out, the gun doesn't work. Put the clip back in, and the last thing supposedly he said was, it's not loaded. What do you think I'm going to do? Kill myself? And just his pressure of his finger on the trigger fired the gun, and it blew his brains out. He died right then. Okay? So when Terry Kath died, Chicago had to find a new guitarist. And they were trying to find a guitarist who was not Terry Kath. But Terry Kath was basically the rock and roll guy of the band, the soul of the band, the leader of the band, So you're trying to find somebody to replace him. They get Donnie Dacus, and the albums tank, and the band kind of, it doesn't really fall apart, but it just, Columbia Records ends up dumping them. They're lost until they hit the David Foster years, and you get you get all the songs that people know from the 80s. Hard to Say I'm Sorry, Hard Habit to Break, Stay of the Night, You're the Inspiration, where they change the sound and change the image of the band. But for those 3 years, 78 to 80 or 78 to 81, the band's kind of lost. And I kind of feel like I went through this whole long story, but I kind of feel like this is what it's going to be like with the Saints for a while. That we're going to go through a Donnie Dacus and Chris Pinnock and Dwayne Bailey kind of thing where they try and find a guitarist who fit in. Chicago tried to find a guitarist to take Terry's spot. And we're going to be trying to find another Drew Brees, and we're going to be going through this this limbo is the best word I could think of.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we are right now, and that's why I have kind of a feeling of dread, because we're about to release our own hot streets on this year. We're going to release. We're getting ready to put out an album that's going to sound like Chicago. This team's going to look like the Saints and probably have moments where they're going to be the Saints, but it's not going to be the Saints. And I don't, we'll see how long it lasts. Look, of course, my brother chimes in on that one. Yeah, David Foster was good and bad for him because, and this is, again, music, but David Foster, when he came in, he and Peter Cetera bonded immediately. And Peter was already sort of the voice of the band anyway. You go to 25-6-4, Just You and Me, Searching So Long, Call on Me, all the Baby What a Big Surprise, If You Leave Me Now. All those songs were sung by Peter Cetera. So radio liked him. And, all Foster did was, you know what? This is your best vocalist. Here, Peter, you sing all the songs. And that's kind of, and he co-wrote the songs, and he had David Foster's records speaks for itself. You go through all the people he's produced over the years and how many Grammys he's won just for produce. He's a fantastic, natural, almost instinctive musician and things. He believes in the big sound and the orchestrated sounds. And, he did did you know he did a Nat King Cole Unforgettable song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember when they were, they recognized that song at the Grammys or did some presentation where they had him singing almost as if hologram, and she's on stage singing with him, and that was really cool.
Yeah,
but what you're talking about, the same thing can be said for Desmond Child in the rock and roll world.
There you go.
And there's never been a bigger asshole in this world than Desmond Child, but he is absolutely a fantastically talented writer.
Street Player is underrated Chicago song. Street Player was one of the reasons why they were burning Chicago albums at a Death to Disco rally, because that was a disco song. At a Death to Disco rally at Comiskey Park in 1979, they burned that album and that song. But it's funny because Street Player, that song has been sampled more than any other song in the Chicago library. You can hear bits and pieces of that song all over the place. The most recent one I heard was, the Bucketheads. You hear that in the Jock Jams thing. You hear Peter Cetera singing Street Sound swirling through my mind. You hear that playing in the background of that song. That's part of the song they sampled. But Pitbull sampled a song from them. I Know You Want Me, where he goes, "On a door stress," and it starts on. You hear that, bam, bam, bam. Well, that's the beginning of Street Player from Chicago, and then you hear it. I hear it all. I was sitting there listening in a dance club in the 80s or the early 90s. I'm in a dance club, and I hear the song like, that's Chicago right there. I'm like, name that tune going on in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I what really like nails on a chalkboard for me is when people are like, they hear MC Hammer do "Can't Touch
Oh,
This," and they
yeah.
think that's his hook, and no, no.
No, that's
And I grew up with some guys
that's Rick
that,
James, bitch.
yeah, I grew up with some people that I was an Aerosmith fan back in the late '80s, and they these guys that I went to school with came up to me and said, "Man, what's this long-haired freaks doing trying to get a rub off on Run DMC?"
Oh my God. You know,
I
the
just
funny thing is,
laughed.
the funny thing is, Aerosmith working with Run DMC and doing Walk This Way, that kind of got Aerosmith back on MTV and back because
Hmm.
that's when you started seeing, Dude Looks Like a Lady and all the other songs, coming out after that on MTV. Um, I'm surprised, and I've expected for years, and I think ACDC is just preventing people from doing it. But I can't believe no one has ever lifted the riff from Back in Black or done a rap version of that song with those lyrics,
Yeah.
And I think it's because ACDC is like, no, you're not
No.
doing it
Mm-mm.
because um, that used
Applebee's has a commercial now that uses Back in Black.
right, and they'll allow that, but it's the song.
Yeah.
You're not sampling the song,
Yeah.
and I'm one of the worst people in the world to have to listen to music today where they have samples in it because I'll hear something, I'm like, that's so and so or that's such and such. I was in a bar drinking one night in the 80s, which that could have been any night of the week. But anyway, I'm in a bar drinking and we're in the Keg in Lafayette. And I'm like, so I'm not feeling no pain. I never got like that, but I was feeling good. And they're playing some song. And I keep hearing this dun 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 in this one song, and it just repeats itself. And I'm like, I know this song. I know this. They lifted that from something. It's Boogie on Reggae Woman by, Stevie Wonder. But just that little dun dun dun, the piano, just me hearing, I'm like, I know this song. Where do I know this song? Of course, you're drunk. So, I'm like going, oh man, where do I know this from? I can't think of it. And, all you can hear is that, the annoying beat in the background, and you're trying to visualize the rest of that song. And it just, yeah. So I used to play Name That Tune when I was a kid, how fast I could name a song.
Yeah.
I
The
used to be
good
really
old
good.
days when music was still music.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, oh, look, my little niece Genevieve's on. Hi, Genevieve. How's it in North Dakota? Aerosmith, your first concert. My first concert was Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. That was the first concert I ever went to.
People wonder why I am who and what I am when it comes to music. My very first concert was Alice Cooper on Halloween night.
Oh my God. Yeah, I went and I saw Waylon and Willie in 1978, 79, maybe. At the Baton Rouge Centraplex. I went with my best friend at the time, my best friend Adam, and his dad. We went to the Baton Rouge Centraplex. And now it's part of a casino, I think. But yeah.
I've been to see several times, seen Alabama, and they put on a really good concert.
You know who even put on a better concert or a better performance than an Alabama concert? My brother can identify with this. This couple that really, really like When We Make Love because they decided to do it. And we're all like, hello, what's this? What's going on here?
Get it?
She's just trying to get comfortable. She just has to keep sitting up and sitting back down again, in the dude's lap. So true story. My brother can verify that.
I'll be in here all night going, yep. That right there is
Yeah,
where it went off the rails.
that's it. No, true story though. Alabama concert.
Anybody, and you can go on YouTube and search this and see what I'm talking about. Those of you who aren't aware, Alice Cooper, when he is in concert, actually Alice Cooper was the opening act on the last concert that I went to, which was the farewell tour of Motley Crue. But anyway, at the end of his concert, he always had this incredible climax, and over the years it changed. The night that I went and saw him, the climax was the guillotine.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he has all these props. There was the guillotine, there was the electric chair, there was the gallows, and I mean, if you're, how do I put this politically correct? If you are in,
was this song "Welcome to My Nightmare"? Is this what he was playing, was singing when you went into this?
I can't remember the song going into it, but when they chop his head off, he comes out in a white tux, top hat, cane, and sings "School's Out for the Summer."
Ah, okay.
But the way that he pulled it off was, I'm sitting there like 30 feet from the guillotine, and like I say, I've never been to a concert before, and I'm just sitting there watching and going, and that blade fell, and I was like, oh my God, they killed him. His head just came off. And then he walks out, and I'm like, oh man, I got to stop drinking.
Well, let's see. I've done the wide range of concerts. I've seen.
Oh yeah.
I saw ZZ Top for the Recyclatory in the Cajun Dome, and that was actually a fun. Their stage setup was interactive. They had a magnetic, like you're in a junkyard. A magnetic crane would come across, and the magnet would drop and pick things up and drop it into something that was like a conveyor belt, and had a little flash like it was going through the fire or whatever. And they're playing all their stuff. And when they played My Head's in Mississippi, they had a laser light show, and you saw a topless woman, but topless woman spinning on the ceiling, and laser light, to the lyrics of the song.
That's what I loved so much about going to live shows in the 80s, because the production values were stressed so much more. Like, for example, my favorite band of all time, Motley Crue, when it came time for the drum solo in the Theater of Pain tour, he's got the drum set up on his riser, and as he's playing, the riser raises up to 90 degrees from the crowd. Well, the next tour, it's on these two robot arms, and it picks up and goes way out over the front row, and it turns this way, and then it turns this way, and then it starts spinning. And then the next tour, Tommy Lee climbs this rope up to the ceiling, and he's got on a track up there, he's got a stripped down kit, and he plays along with songs and does his thing as this thing rose all the way over through the arena. And the last tour that I saw him, he was on a roller coaster.
I saw Rush for Rollerbones tour, and I saw him a couple other times too. And same thing. Well, Neil Peart didn't do all that, but he had two drum sets, and for his drum solo, he's got the electric drums. And then he hits a button, and the drum set lifts up and rotates, and then the non-electric drums, I don't know what you call them. I can't call them acoustic drums, but normal drums. He starts drums. Yeah, he starts doing his other drums solo, and it's just awesome. And then of course, he hits the gong in the back, and he's hitting the bell, and he's got all kinds of other things programmed into it too. Yeah. So it's affecting the light show, and when they play Subdivisions, your vocals roll through the the stadium. So like they have speakers set up all along the sides of the stadium to the back, and then rolls back up to the front. So in high school halls, and you hear subdivisions, and it rolls through there. In concert, be cool or be cast out. So I'm. That's it was awesome. It really was.
I loved stuff. I loved stuff.
But
like
it's nothing.
that.
But it was like nothing but testosterone in that room, because it was nothing but guys. Yeah. All in there, and all of them are doing air drums.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
I loved the stage show, if you will.
Oh yeah,
of those concerts. But at the same time, there was something to be said for the earlier concerts of ZZ Top, the earlier concerts of AC/DC. Mm-hmm. I saw AC/DC at Texas Jam, and that was when they were promoting Back in Black. Brian Johnson had just joined the band. Hell's Bells live.
Oh, I bet.
Your head. Man, I've been fortunate enough that I've gotten to see so many of the bands that I really, really liked and followed. Aerosmith, Motley Crue, Rat, Poison, Bon Jovi. There were a few from that generation that I never did get. I never got to see Kiss live. Never got to see Ozzy live. Never got to see Metallica live.
I saw Journey with Steve Perry in 1986, the Raised on Radio tour, and that was the last time Journey came for a long time. And then that's when Perry didn't, he was there, then he was gone, and they went through that guy, Steve, whatever, and then the little Filipino singer now. But yes, I couldn't think of his last name. But yeah, so, but when I saw Journey in 86, that's without Steve Smith on drums and Ross Valerie on bass. You had Randy Jackson on bass, and I forgot who the drummer was. But so it was a little bit different. And I didn't think Steve's voice was very strong for that concert. I really didn't. I thought there was something wrong with him.
Well, I had always heard that the reason that he left the band in the first place was because he was having health issues.
He was, but it was back and those kind of things. But it wasn't vocally. It's just for that show. I just thought he sounded hoarse compared to how I'm used. Like, if you go YouTube right now, the Houston concert from '82, the Escape tour. Mm-hmm. You listen to him sing "Don't Stop Believing" or "Open Arms" or I can't believe I can't think of it.
Faithfully.
No, not Faithfully. That's Frontiers. No, Escape. The third release from Escape, because it was it was
Stone in Love.
No, Stone in Love wasn't officially released. That's the second
Who's
song.
Crying Now?
Who's Crying Now? Thank you. Yeah, it's Don't Stop Believing, Stone in Love, Who's Crying Now, and Open Arms is the last song on side one of that cassette. For those of you who are old as us. But yeah, I mean, he just, when he sang Open Arms, it wasn't nearly as strong. He didn't, that wanting you near, that part, he always just nails when you watch it on YouTube. But this one, he just wasn't there. But it could have been anything. It was a good show, but it wasn't. I always listen to that Houston one, going, man, that's even better than I remember. So,
anybody that knows me knows how much I love Bon Jovi. And the one time that I got to see him in concert, they had a terrible, terrible night. There was feedback the entire show.
That very well could have been part of the problem. He could have not been feeling well, and it was not a good sound guy.
Of all the concerts that I went to, I've seen Motley Crue 16 times. I've seen I've seen Poison 14 times. Those are the only two, and I feel qualified to make this statement. Those are the only two bands that, regardless of how many times I've seen them, where I've seen them, the vocals from Bret Michaels and Vince Neil were always right there. Vince Neil, as many times as I've seen him, I have never seen him have a bad night.
Mm. Well, the only band I've seen as many times as you've seen those two is probably 38 Special, and I think I've seen them 12 times. And the last time I saw them was probably because Chicago's close. Chicago's like 9 or 10 times I've seen them, but 38 Special is just cheaper. They really are. I mean, I can see them a lot cheaper. Like one of the last times I saw them was at the old Six Flags. In fact, it was 2005. It was right before Katrina. It was the summer of 2005. I saw them at Six Flags over the New Orleans East. But I mean, yeah, it's Don Barnes's voice is worn out. So it's he can still do it, but it's just not as strong as what I'm used to hearing from him. But they were another band that was, no matter when I saw them, they were nailing it every time. You know, it's the crowd goes nuts. As soon as that, dun, 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 that's as soon as Hold On Loosely starts. I mean, everybody loses it. So
the same thing can be said. Everybody for years and years, especially after Sammy Hagar left Van Halen, everybody was wanting the original band to reunite, and then finally, after years and years and years, they did, and you heard why they hadn't in so long, because David Lee Roth's voice was trashed.
Yeah.
And they recorded a live album in, I want to say, Tokyo, and you can listen to that album, and it's not good.
The secret to Van Halen, aside from Eddie and Alex, of course, but the secret for the vocals was always Michael Anthony.
Yep.
Always.
That high background voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Even when Sammy Hagar's in there, you hear that background, like I was thinking the song I'm thinking of right now is Spank from Unlawful College. Unlawful carnal knowledge. I can say that.
Yeah.
But where he goes, got to have it. You hear that little voice right in the background as Sammy is singing.
You can go back to the very first song on the very first album, Running with the Devil.
Oh yeah.
The background on that is what made that song.
Yeah, because you ever listen to isolated vocals in that song? It's hilarious. It's the funniest thing I ever heard. Yeah. It just makes me laugh every time, So, all right. So we've talked a lot about music tonight, but that's all right. I mean, hey, I can.
It's the off season. You know what you're signing up for.
That's right. I'm going to out myself a little bit because here we go. Like I said, wide variety of music. I've seen Richard Marx and Michael Bolton both live. And actually, Richard Marx, a lot of people make fun of him and, that's cheesy 80s music. That sucker did Ain't No Sunshine in the middle of his song, middle of his set. And it was
Richard Marx.
It was friggin' awesome the way he sang that. He didn't sing an a cappella. That's not what I'm saying, but he just sang. It was just a little acoustic guitar, and he just playing it. Dun, 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 and he nailed it. And Michael Bolton, he's a ballad guy, and a lot of people hate his voice and stuff, but that sucker, he said he comes in, and this is before he released the opera album and stuff like that, but he comes out and he does his songs, and then he's got like this in the background, he's got this, it looks like a balcony from Romeo and Juliet. And he kind of steps up and he says, I've been kind of depressed. It's been a rough time. My kids are growing up and I've had marriage troubles and things like that. And I felt really depressed. So I wrote this song, and he starts singing Pilachi, the sad clown. I
Okay.
cannot. You know that song because we've all heard it. It's been used in every uh like commercials galore. If I ever played it for you, you would recognize it. If you
Okay.
never heard opera in your life, you would recognize this song. But anyway, he does this thing. He just belts this out, and it was like the entire audience just silent with their jaws dropped. Like, what the fuck? I've never heard anybody do this. And he's like, I'm just kidding. I didn't write that. But yeah,
One of the saddest things I saw a concert called the Metal Edge Tour, and this was after hair metal had gone away. This was after grunge came and pretty much went. But it was the L.A. Guns, Dokken, Rat, Warrant, and Firehouse all in one show. And of the 5 bands, none of them still had the original lineup. It was sad because all the great memories that I had of, like, for example, Dokken, going and seeing them several times in concert and seeing George Lynch's incredible guitar work and Don Dokken's just spot on vocals and Mick Brown's drumming and Jeff Pilson all over the stage as the bass player. Well, Pilson was gone and George Lynch was gone, so that you could sit there, and it didn't do the band justice to sit there and listen to him going, that's not George Lynch. He could have played the exact same notes that George Lynch played, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, and I felt that way when I've heard replacement singers for bands and stuff like that. I'm like, it's just like, I
applaud them for keeping on doing what they love so much. For those guys, even like bar bands here where I am, the guys that I knew back in the day when we were 19, 20 years old doing what we loved, and some of these guys are still doing it now 30 some odd years later. I think that's awesome.
The thing about it is it's fine as long as you don't try and duplicate that song. What you sang when you were 20. If you got to drop it down a key or two, take it down a step so you can still perform it in your range without sounding like, then it's a little disappointing, but you still enjoy it. Like, I saw the Eagles in 1994, and I had already seen Don Henley and Glenn Frey solo. Okay. Yeah. And Glenn Frey's voice kind of had gotten thicker. That's the best way I can put it. So he's singing Lion Eyes. And I can tell from playing that song so many times, he is dropping it down a step or a note because he can't sing like he did when he was 20. He's smoked, he's done all kinds of things. So, and that's the key. And then when I saw the Eagles in 94, which is one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they played for 3 hours and they played not only their hits, the Eagles hits. You heard Don Henley solo stuff. You heard Glenn Frey solo stuff. You heard Joe Walsh's solo stuff. I mean, he's playing ordinary average guy. Life's been good all night long. That stuff. So, so it's a fun show. You're hearing everything from them.
Yeah.
I heard they played everything but Take It to the Limit. That's the only song they didn't play.
That's one of the hardest songs that I've ever tried to sing.
Well, that's why Randy Meisner got kicked out of the Eagles, essentially, was because Glenn Frey is like, Randy had to really be in the mood to sing it. And he was really intimidated by that note that he had to sing at the end. We had to hold it. And some nights he would just tell Glenn, I'm not feeling it. I can't sing it. And Glenn's like, people come here. That was their first number one song. He says, people came here just to hear you sing that song and just to hear you sing that note. And he's like, well, I'm just not feeling it, So they basically got in a fight over these things, because it was every time.
Yeah.
He could talk him into it sometimes. Sometimes he couldn't, and he was intimidated to sing that last note. Where he's got to hold it so long. So yeah, the one person I wish I would have been able to see before her voice was shot was Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Linda Ronstadt in the 70s because that would have been a fantastic show.
Absolutely.
But Donna Summer too. I would have loved to have seen Donna Summer. Just because that woman, I'll never forget. My parents bought me the 45 to the song "Love to Love You, Baby," and they didn't know what was on. Have you ever listened to that song, "Love to Love You, Baby"?
Yes, but my retention of it is not there.
Oh, if you play it, you'll remember that song from that point on. Linda Ronstadt is basically pulling a Sally in the restaurant, the salad bar scene in the song throughout the whole thing. My mom's like, "You can't play that song anymore.
Can't play it any less either."
Yeah, I know, because I'm just here. She is moaning and groaning as you hear the "Love to Love You, Baby." Oh, love to love you, and you hear her moaning. That's pretty much the sum total of that song. So
I would have loved to have seen maybe Pat Benatar, and one of the most incredibly talented vocalists that I've ever seen live was absolutely Jeff Tate from Queensryche. And as time went by, Jeff Tate went his way and the band went their way. They had a long legal battle as to who got to use the name, and Jeff Tate won. And 25, however long it was after that, he played at the Paragon as Queensryche, and it was the anniversary of the Operation Mindcrime album, and they did the entire production of Operation Mindcrime and then encored about 4 more songs.
Wow.
And I've seen him in concert probably 2, maybe 3 times. He's another one that the vocals are never off. They are always spot on. His vocals ain't just like Mary Had a Little Lamb either.
I bet. My Calvin says we would love to see Prince and Morris Day in a time live. My best friend,
I've seen Prince.
My best friend John went and saw Prince for the Purple Rain concert tour. And,
I saw him on the 1999 tour.
And Morris Day and a Time were part of it, and so was what was his name? He sang the song "Oh Sheila."
Oh Sheila, that was
it's not Sheila B, because that's
that's Sheila E.
Sheila E. Sorry, Sheila E. Not I'm combining Sheena Easton with Sheila E.
I would have loved to have seen Sheena Easton.
But this was the guy who sang "Oh Sheila." Let's see who
that was a group that did "Oh Sheila."
I know, but he was a member of
that group.
Of Prince. When you saw Prince in 1999 for 1999 tour, he was a member of Prince's band then, and then he released his own album, "Ready for the World." That was the name of the band, and he sang "Oh Sheila." That was the name of the band because that was Prince. Prince had so much influence at that time. Yeah, there's Calvin, "Ready for the World."
The band Warrant from the hair metal 80s, their demo tape that they shopped around to record producers, Prince paid for.
Apollonia, yeah. Well, we did get to see a lot of Apollonia when she had to go dive into that water.
Purified by the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah, which was not that. Yeah.
And Vanity.
Yeah, Vanity. My brother saw Sheena Easton. I saw Casey and the Sunshine Band, believe it or not. And
I won't tell nobody.
You know what? I tell you what, he was over his drugs, but he was kind of overweight, so he's sweating his ass off
Yeah.
out there. But they actually put on a really, really good show. That guy really had, he didn't lose his voice. I mean, he couldn't do all the stuff, but he really had a good choreograph, and it was a lot of fun. That was a
Yeah.
fun concert to see. Um,
Well, you gotta bear in mind that artists like that, they
mhm.
haven't really expanded their repertoire in the last 25 years. So they've had quite a bit of time to perfect what they have.
Well, they know they're a nostalgia act.
Yeah.
He knows it's not like it's the real Sunshine Band from the 70s. It's just a band. He called it the Sunshine Band. And, they're there to sing Get Down Tonight, Shake Your Booty,
I'm your boogeyman.
I'm Your Boogeyman, Boogie Shoes.
I'm
And,
gonna put it on.
uh, and it's a lot of fun because that's what everybody's there to hear. So they're all like dancing and stuff. It just has a lot of positive energy. It's just really, it's like going to see a great bar band. It's really what it was like for me.
Yeah.
And I love to go see bar bands. Drives my wife crazy, but I love bar bands because
Yeah.
there's a passion for that music that they're playing.
Absolutely. I did
Because
that for 20 years.
they enjoy playing songs that gets the audience up and involved and having fun, and that's what it's like. So.
I can guarantee you that if you take 10 musicians that are in that bar band genre,
Mhm.
you take 10 of them, 8 of them, their sole purpose and their driving force is the love of the music, because they're not doing it for money. Because you don't, unless you're very fortunate and you're in a very, very advantageous position and situation, you're not making money. You're doing it because it's something that you love to do. I always
Yeah.
told people when I was back in those days, I said, man, I would play in a pay toilet and use my own quarters just to get up on the stage and play.
Well, that's always been like my fantasy was to be able to be in a bar band and play songs that I like live, and watch everybody react and stuff like that.
There's
I,
no drug, there's no alcohol in the world that can come close to giving you the feeling that gives you.
mhm.
Because for that 2 or 3 hours or whatever you're up there doing it, the
They got
world is revolving around you.
they got there's a band, local band. Well, it's not that local because they travel the Gulf Coast. I'm sure a lot of people our age have seen them. You ever seen the Molly Ringwalds?
Absolutely.
That is like the ultimate fun band to go see because it's nothing but 80s music, and they play they can play everything from Aha, Take on Me to doing Queen stuff to doing White Snake. Oh, we forgot to mention that. You saw who died over the weekend?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of music, White Snake, Tawny, the
Katane.
fantasy lady of I think most people who were watching MTV videos in the 80s, late 80s. Yeah, I can still remember seeing her walk around to during in the still of the night, and then here I go again, and she's crawling over the hood of that Jaguar. Um,
She was married to a guy from West Monroe.
Really? Well, she was
Yep.
married to Coverdale too.
Well, after Coverdale, she married Chuck Finley, who was pitcher for the Anaheim Angels, and he was from right across the river there.
She was 59 years old. And I had seen recent pictures of her, and she looked a lot older than 59.
Well, she lived by choice. She
Yeah.
lived a really, really hard life. She's the prototypical '80s video vixen.
Yep.
She
Absolutely.
she had her issues, and they caught up with her. I hate to see stuff like that, but
I do too.
sometimes you have demons that you can't escape.
Well, we've talked about in the past on this show and a couple other shows about the 27 Club, right? I'm told
Yeah.
musicians and singers who never make it past 27. And, the song by Bad Company, Shooting Star, always gets me like that because I think
Yeah.
about that every time, and there's another example, Shooting Star. Um, so yeah, it, 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 we're getting to the age, unfortunately, where a lot more musicians are
Yeah.
dying. We started the show talking about Saints, and of course, we go off into music, but that's one of the reasons why I don't go see many concerts anymore because Glenn Fry's gone. So the
Yeah.
Eagles, it's not going to be the same for me to see the Eagles. Um,
The word
now,
it always seems to be one or the other, and it's catch 22. You
mhm,
you long to see the bands as you remembered them in your childhood,
yeah,
and then you finally get that opportunity, and like we were saying about David Lee Roth, his voice is shot to hell and back, and
mhm.
it it doesn't evoke the memories of your childhood like you thought it would.
It's yeah. That is probably the biggest disappointment. It's one of the reasons why I haven't gone to see a lot of people multiple times unless I really, really, really enjoyed the band. Is because when I saw pick a band that I saw Foreigner, for example. When I saw Foreigner with Lou Graham the first time, and this was for the Agent Provocateur
Mm-hmm.
tour in 1985. I saw him there, and I had no idea what they were going to play. I mean, I knew the songs I felt like they had to play, but I really didn't know what the show was going to be like. Okay. And they opened It Feels Like the First Time, and they played Urgent, and they played Waiting for a Girl Like You, and they played, um, um,
Hot
Dirt.
blooded.
Oh yeah, that's they always wind up with Hot Blooded, but Cold as Ice and Double Vision, Head Games, which is probably my favorite one. But they also played from the Agent Provocateur album. They played, Reaction to Action. I Want to Know What Love Is. And they had the at the time USL gospel choir out there singing that with them. So I'm watching this show and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. They're playing everything. Um, then I caught a video or a concert somebody uploaded for Foreigner. Um, a few years ago, Lou Graham's not there. They got a Lou Graham sound alike, and I'm watching them, and I'm like, they really don't sound that good. I remember that when I saw him in '85, that was just awesome. But it just wasn't. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So, look, my brother's trying to steer us back to the Saints. Schedule's being released tomorrow. How many primetime games do you think the Saints will get? I'm thinking he's saying 3, with the Bucks definitely going to be one. I think
I
we
don't see it. I don't see us getting prime time with the Bucks again without the
uh,
Breeze Brady matchup. I really don't.
but Winston Brady. Oh,
Winston and his old team.
yeah.
A lot of storylines there.
I'm telling you, we're getting. I think we're going to be playing Thursday night before when the season starts. When Tampa is hosting, gets to host the game in the stadium. We're going to Tampa week 1 and playing Tampa on Thursday night on NBC with all the hoopla and Winston against Brady. I think that's going to be the very first one. I think that's the game. I think we get a Monday night game. I think we get a Sunday night game, and unfortunately, we get a Thursday night game. And I think the Sunday and Thursday night games are the same week. I think we play at home Sunday night and have to go on the road Thursday night, or
Yeah.
vice versa, one or the other. So I
Yeah.
think there's gonna be 4 primetime games, and that's gonna be the 4. Um, yeah, 3 or 4. I think it's gonna be 4 primetime games, and I think one of them is going to be the home opener against Tampa. I think. Let's see. Let me pull that schedule back up again. I had it a second ago. Where was it? I had it a second before we started the show, and I lost it now. It was. Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the games Did I lose you? I surely did. I had a feeling I was going to lose him soon. He's going to try and pop back, but I think one of the other nationally televised games will probably there he is will probably be. What'd you do? Hit a button?
I guess so.
Okay, so
Technology is not your friend,
I
despite
know.
the commercials.
All right, so we play Dallas, we play the Giants, we play Buffalo, we play the AFC East and the NFC East. So we got Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets all there. So I think one of those games will probably be a nationally televised game, and I'm guessing probably New England.
Yeah.
I know New England sucks. Maybe Buffalo, but I don't know. We play Buffalo at home, so I don't know if they'll do that. But we play New England on the road, and I can see that one being a nationally televised game. We play the Packers too, but that's at home. The rest of the teams, we play the Washington football team, we play the Eagles. Seattle's a possibility, but that's at CenturyLink Field. That's a possibility for a nationally televised game. So I mean, I'm looking at the schedule, and I can't, unless they decide to throw us a Cowboys Saints matchup, which I think is a prime Thursday game.
That could even possibly be the Thanksgiving Day.
No, because they play in New Orleans, so it won't be Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, okay.
Dallas always hosts, but that could be a Sunday night kind of game. But yeah, I mean, I just think Seattle, Green Bay, Buffalo, New England, Tampa, and Tampa are probably your best shots at getting nationally televised games. I think we have a lot of the only other thing I worry about is weather, because we play at the Jets, at the Eagles, and at Seattle, and at Tennessee and Washington. Tennessee for sure is in January because they already announced that. That's the last game of the season. So somebody asked the other day, what was the last cold weather game we played?
Buffalo, wasn't it?
Well,
the day we had all the rushing.
Yeah, but that wasn't cold weather because that was the middle of the season. That was like October. I'm trying to think of the last game where we really had snow on the ground to play.
Gosh, I don't remember, man.
Well, 89 against the Buffalo Bills in Rich Stadium with John Forcade. That's the first game he played. In the first half, there was snow on the field, thick snow, a lot of snow. Yeah. But, I've noticed that, I don't know if the league just gotten better about cleaning up snow. We haven't had a good heavy blizzard in a long time. The last game I can think of where there was a blizzard, I think it was Buffalo. It's always Buffalo. Buffalo against Kansas City, I think it was. They played in really heavy snow. I think the Eagles played one game in really heavy snow.
Well, but these stadiums nowadays, the ones that are still outdoor stadiums, most of them have the heated surface.
Yeah, but because the old days used to just be like in '83. The Saints had to play the Patriots, and a blizzard came through, and it was hard to watch that game. But that was just painted concrete they were playing on, So, you had to have snow plows and stuff like that to clean it off. And
was that the game where they wheeled a snow plow out to kick the field goal?
That was against Miami. Yeah, that was against Miami in New England. Yeah, and the guy was supposed to go in a straight line and just blow the line clear, and he took that turn and just happened to catch the area where they're going to set the ball for that field goal, and Don Shula was pissed.
Yes,
yeah, that was a snowplow game, he calls it. And he found out who that guy was. He knew the guy's name. It's hilarious to watch the NFL Films footage on that. He was like a prisoner on a work release program, driving his snowplow, and he was a Patriots fan. He just kind of did a little turn. It's hilarious. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't piss off old people. They can hold a grudge.
that's right. So yeah, yeah, that's true. 2002, they had some snow in Baltimore. That was a Jake Delhomme game, second half. But yeah, there's not a whole lot I can think of where we really had a lot of snow on the ground where it really became an issue because we played the NFC Championship game against the Bears, and the ground was frozen.
Mm-hmm.
But there was not, and there was snow flurries in the beginning, but it wasn't like an accumulation of snow. You still had that.
Yeah.
You could still see the green grass. So, yeah, different era. Well, one of the things I was going to talk about tonight before we got on the whole thing about music was we had mentioned this earlier. PFS had put that list out of top 10 all-time Saints players. We're not going to have time, obviously, to go into that tonight because I'm sitting here trying to figure out what we can talk about now in the off season. So next weekend,
that'd be good for next week.
Well, this weekend is the rookie minicamp, so we'll talk about that. And I want you guys to think about who would be your top 10 all-time Saints players. And my biggest problem with any list, I think, it's almost like you have to exclude the Sean Payton teams because they're obviously the most successful teams. So yeah. Who's you're going to go through the list. Okay, well, obviously Drew Brees is one. Marcus Colston, Michael Thomas, Pierre Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jari Evans, Cam Jordan. So, obviously these are more successful players. So it's almost like I want to do two lists. Top 10 Peyton era Saints and top 10 Saints players from 1967 to 2005, just so you can kind of give these like a Danny Abramowitz or, a George Rogers, a Dalton Hilliard a shot at these lists. Derlin Moore is probably one of the most underrated Saints of all time, and he'll never make any top 10 lists anymore. So, yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the schedule too. I mean, like I said, the biggest thing I'm worried about is cold weather games at the end of the year.
Yeah. Because we play in quite a few cold weather teams.
Yeah. Playing East. Yeah. So we'll see. And of course, Seattle, if you get Seattle in November and December, you got to deal with wind and rain. So
yeah,
we know what that's like. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Sean, you have any last words? I mean, we talked a lot about music tonight. So,
well, not really. Like you said, we have rookie minicamp this weekend. Mm-hmm. We'll get the first opportunity to see not only our draft picks, but our undrafted free agent signees, and get a little better feel for what we got.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Nope. Don't exclude Peyton. Ain't been there long enough.
MT. Michael Thomas.
Yeah. Oh, Michael Thomas. Okay, Michael Thomas ain't been there. Okay. No, I'm just saying, if you don't segregate Michael, the Peyton's teams, I mean, who's better, Hobie Brenner or Jimmy Graham, for example? Well, Hobie Brenner is probably your most productive tight end until Jimmy Graham got there, but Hobie Brenner was a different kind of tight end than Jimmy Graham. Hobie Brenner was the run blocker, and Jimmy Graham scored 16 friggin' touchdowns. I mean, Alvin Kamara is the only other guy who scored that many touchdowns. It's just, how rare it is to have that many touchdowns in a single season. So, yeah, he's been there 15, 16 years now. It's a lot that he's going to dominate. So I think it's just better to kind of segregate the two. Like my brother said, the Dome Patrol, I mean, how do you count those guys? So anyway, we'll talk about that next week along with the mini camp and the schedule release. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time under the dome. Good night, everybody.